The great Kalani Brown is here. By here, I mean on the show, but also in the WNBA. Should that happen sooner? What does it say about WNBA development that it didn't? Locked On Women's Basketball starts now.
Ogunbowale for the win.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Women's Basketball. I'm your host, Howard Megdal, thanking you for making us your first listen every day. And of course, it is not just me, it is the entire team over at thenexthoops.com. We are delighted that we had more than 100,000 listens to the podcast in April and again in May, and on track to beat that in June. Over 800,000 readers of the work we do across women's basketball, a beat reporter in all 12 WNBA cities. Make sure you're subscribing to Locked On Women's Basketball on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts, and of course at thenexthoops.com. And I have had the privilege through previous outlets to be able to cover our guest today for a long time, dating back to her Baylor days. It is Kalani Brown, who has been an absolute breakout star for the Dallas Wings since joining the team. But we're going to talk a little bit about how maybe in the WNBA world alone, it seems like it comes out of nowhere. But of course, it is anything but that. And Kalani, I guess I want to start with, when you have the type of scoring burst you did when you got to the league with your most recent version here, I mean, for you, it must just feel like a night that's normal, whether you're playing, in Turkey or Israel, with the kind of success you've had there, right?
It could definitely feel like that. I think overseas is a different mentality, a different system, so to speak, and a different pace. I feel like overseas I have more freedom to do what we do, and do it, because they're depending on you to score. But in the W, it's different. It's a different pace, a different system, different players. You have way more help, I should say. Everybody's a star on your team in the W. So you just have to find other ways to impact the game versus overseas, where you are the star and you are what they're paying you to come over there and do is score. So you just don't think about it. So I think the WNBA is a little bit more thinking on that aspect.
It's interesting. I mean, I get that, and that makes a ton of sense. But and check me on pronunciation if I'm wrong. At Maccabi Bnot Ashdod, did I say that correctly?
Yeah.
Okay. So at Maccabi Bnot Ashdod, it's one thing to say, all right, well, I'm coming over there, they're paying me a score, but you shot 71.3% from the field there. I mean, you were putting 22 and 11 as an average every night out there. That has to be something that is both challenging and gratifying to be able to go out there and do that at the professional level. Is it a different feeling internally too? I understand you're saying the challenge is different.
Oh, it's definitely more physical. And it's harder in that aspect. But, I had my first American coach over there in LaCole Willingham, and she was great for us. And it's just great not having a language barrier, because it's hard, when you and your coach are not on the same page because of the language barrier and certain things and with your teammates. But she pushed me as if I was in the league. She said I belonged in the league. We had a long talk before the season even started, and she said she was going to push me as such. And that's what she did. So I feel like, every night it's on you to perform. That's what they're paying us to do over there. And in the league, you only have maybe 2 to 3 Americans if you're lucky, and you're on Euro League, you'll have those other WNBA players to help you. But normally it's just you, so you got to work with what you got, and it's all about getting comfortable. In the league, I feel now I'm getting more comfortable after a couple of years of being in the system and learning the system. I feel like I'm getting a little bit more comfortable with this Dallas team.
And it makes sense. And again, in segment 2, I want to talk about how that came together and how, in your case, a player of your gifts is serendipitously getting accustomed to the league rather than there being a system in place that allow you and so many of your generation to be able to do this in a comprehensive way. But I want to talk first about origin story, because, obviously people know that your father played in the NBA, but you and I have talked about the impact your mom had on your growing up as a basketball player. And I just wanted to take me through, so what was the division of labor like? Mom was a coach, right? Am I remembering that correct?
Yep. Yep. My mom has coached me from the time I was 6 years old to up until high school, where she was an assistant coach at my high school.
Right.
All teams she coached me, and she knows me like the back of her hand, so she pushes me, and took me to WNBA games growing up, and took me to Tennessee camps with Pat Summitt. I still have my ball. Baylor camps with BG. She hates when I put that picture out. The camp picture. But yeah, like, I've been around the W for a long time, and that's been my dream for a long time, just since a little girl. Watching San Antonio, Vicky Johnson, who was also my mom's teammate, Teresa Weatherspoon, who my mom knows very well, watching her play at Madison Square Garden as a little girl, and with the Liberty. I have a Tamika Catchings Fever jersey, so the league has always been a part of my life, and my mom made sure of that.
So how important do you think that was to your overall career path? Because there's so many, frankly, teammates of yours that didn't necessarily have the W in the same level of consciousness that I feel like it is today. It's certainly closer to that point where, if it's not ubiquitous, it's certainly something that there's more and more attention being put on it. Do you think you're here today? Do you think you're playing in the league, if not for that sort of understanding of that is the goal, that's where I want to be?
Absolutely. I think that normally when you come out of college, that's now they have NIL deals and some different things, and college kids are making their own money. But for us, like, we just had that little 1,200 or however much your school gave you. So we was looking forward to coming to the league and then going overseas. But yeah, I do feel that way, of course.
In terms of that path and playing at Baylor and reaching the heights, to be an NCAA champion, did you feel like there was a gap between the amount of attention? Because I remember, I covered that Final Four, where it's a sold out crowd, where it is feeling like, in a lot of ways, the apex. Was there a certain feeling like at the WNBA that, at least at first, there was a gap in tension? And Maya Moore's written about this. There's this talk about that at the highest level of college basketball, there wasn't necessarily that match yet.
Yeah, there was a gap out, but certain organizations, like, I was drafted to the LA Sparks. The LA Sparks had a very nice fan base, very big fan base, and we were playing in the Staples Center at the time, so it wasn't that much of a big leap for me. When sometimes we go on the road and go to other cities, the fan base is not as dense as it would normally be. Yeah, I think I would say that. Yeah, and Baylor has sold out crowds. Like, our fans are loyal. They're ready to see us. They showed out just recently coming out for BG on her night. So Baylor fans are really loyal. We had lots of sold out crowds every night, for sure.
Locked On Women's Basketball is brought to you by BetterHelp. Look, it's so easy to get caught up in what everyone else needs from you and never take a moment to think about what you need from yourself. But when we spend all of our time giving, it can leave us feeling stretched thin and burned out. One solution that helps is therapy. Therapy can give you the tools you need to find more balance in your life so you can keep supporting others without leaving yourself behind. It's something I tell so many of my mentees. You've got to make sure you're pouring into yourself if you're able to pour into others. So find more balance with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA to get 10% off your first month of virtual therapy. Again, BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. It has to be a point of pride for you that how much Baylor is supporting BG, both when she was being detained and, where since she's been back, what has that experience been like for you?
My heart was heavy because I know BG personally, and I just know she's just a light wherever she goes. And I'm so glad, truly, that did not that situation or change who she was as a person. Um, because it could have easily been that. Uh-oh, sorry,
Yeah,
I'm not
no,
sorry.
all good.
Um, it could have easily been that, and it could have changed her psychologically forever. But when I saw her, she was in good spirits. She looked healthy, and I just thank God for that.
Yeah, it's I think, basketball and seeing her back on the court alone is one thing, but just the fact that she's back here, it just feels so miraculous,
Yeah.
just on a human level. And it's just been wonderful to see. But in a more specific basketball way, we got to talk about that game against Phoenix as well, where you come in and put up 17 points and 15 rebounds, and just monster numbers. To have that level of comfort, I know we talked a little bit about it when you came to town, when I saw you in New York last week, but just take me through like what it was that allowed you to slip so effortlessly into Latricia Trammell's system and play as well as you have here right away.
Well, she's made it easy. In the past, I haven't had teams where a traditional vibe was incorporated into the offense. And so a little bit I struggled because normally when you go to new teams and new systems, you have somebody to watch. So it was kind of hard because I never had a vibe really to truly watch. And maybe in Atlanta with Elizabeth Williams and Cheyenne Parker, they kind of guided me, but it's for the most part, it's more of a mobilized thing. So she hasn't changed much about the offense. She makes it simple. And she allows us to do what we do great first and then branch out and do other things out of our skill set and just getting more feel for, being more mobile and active.
It really feels to me like over the last 5 years, there's been a bigger conversation about traditional fives. This idea that as Sil got older and moved toward retirement, would there be a role for traditional fives in this league? And I mean, what do you think about that? When you hear people talking that way, it always seemed kind of silly to me. And part of it's covering you, and part of it's covering, Tierra McCowan. It's just this idea that, like, of course, there is room for the traditional five in this game. Just take me through like your thoughts about it, though.
I feel like everybody can be on the perimeter. And there's always room for a five. You've seen Tierra do it.
Yeah.
This game is physical, man. And sometimes they, as much as, you have to guard the.
Oh, you know what? Hold on. I lost your sound there for a sec. Oh, Kalani, can you hear me? Hold on. I lost your sound there for you.
Oh.
This game is
Oh.
physical, man, and then you were starting to talk about some of the details of it, and that's when I lost your sound.
Hello, can you see me?
I see you. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh,
Sorry.
good. Okay. It said we had an unstable connection, but it's back now. So you were starting to say that this game is physical, and then you were getting into the details from there. That's when I lost your sound.
Yeah, I think that it's physical, and just people like to talk about the traditional five being struggling to guard the stretch five and stretch four.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it turns around if you establish your post player early and gets those mobile fives in foul trouble. You know what I mean? They don't want to bang as much as how it was in the NBA in the 90s. Everybody want to shoot nowadays. My dad also was a hard-nosed player and a physical player, so it just I don't know. It's just I think there is a place for us. I don't think you just cannot count us out. I mean, the whole Baylor versus not Notre Dame, the whole Baylor versus Oregon matchup was old school versus new school. And no shade, but like, we scored a majority of our points in the paint. We barely shot any threes that year.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm saying, like, it just goes to show that the post is still important.
if memory serves, I think you guys were 0 for 3 in the national championship game from 3. And
Yeah.
I also remember you celebrating. So yes, one does not preclude the other. But I know we talked about this just recently, that you were always excited about the idea of shooting the trail 3. I know you're still looking for 3-pointer number 1 in the WNBA. Have you talked to LT about it? Is it something where you're hoping they'll call your number there?
I think it's more so on me and my confidence. I just been needed in the paint so long. It's definitely in my bag. I can shoot it. I've been able to shoot it for a while. I just, I'm needed rebounding, I'm needed banging, I'm needed in the post where I in my sweet spot. But if the opportunity calls, LT definitely lets us shoot it. Y'all saw Tierra shoot it in transition in preseason, so be ready to support that.
Oh,
um,
it will be a banner day.
yeah, we
But
practice that in practice, and that's what I'm saying when I say she allows us to come out and branch out. She doesn't put us in a box. She doesn't put our game in a box, and I think that's what makes us so makes her such a good coach, because some people be like, you do this and this is what you'll do, but for it's limitless. The ceiling is limitless.
and effective too. I mean, you guys are 3rd in offensive rating right now, and in the WNBA so far. It just and this gets into what I wanted to talk to you about in part 2 about this, and stuff that we were talking a little bit about coming in here. And just want to set the scene for our listeners to have a sense of it. Latricia Trammell was an assistant in LA when you were there your first year in the league. So here's a familiarity, and you're able to come into Dallas, you're able to have camp, and then because of essentially the quirks of the schedule, right? The fact that T goes overseas, you're able to come in and play in a system that you're familiar with. But
right.
to me, and forgive the point of personal privilege here, a 1st-round pick, somebody who comes in with your degree of talent and what you're capable of doing, and to not have the opportunity to be able to develop your game, to get minutes, it's a function of how big are the rosters, how many teams there are, and then again, even beyond those 2 things, a developmental league. And to have all 3 of these things are, to me, vital. And so I guess the question I would ask you is, what's the level of frustration like for you to know that on the NBA side, you'd have gotten these reps here, you'd have gotten minutes here?
Yeah. And it starts with us and expansion for sure. I've been cut because of just not being able to afford me, because I'm not on that cap space. There was no cap space, and it's disappointing, but I pour into my overseas season, and I think that's how I've gotten better each year and matured and have my game better. We go overseas to develop and gain that confidence, and so when you walk into camp, it's like, I'm here. So I feel like at least if we can get more teams, at least expand roster spots, and open up the cap space so that we can have those players learning under those vets, because that's also important in the development. You see those players overseas though, but that way, eventually, we may not have to go overseas to develop. We can stay right, not worry about getting cut because a team cannot afford us and there's no cap space. So I mean, it's sky's the limit. I feel like we're working on it. It will get there eventually.
But it's happenstance, right? Even when it's overseas. I just recently was talking to Naz Hillman about the role that Kia Vaughn played in her career. And how many stories do we have through the 27 years of the league where, it's who are your vets, every time through, and making sure that was incorporated into what's being done. That just strikes me as something that it matters from not just an emotional standpoint, but just from a standpoint of how people develop. And again, and listeners should know, it hasn't stopped you. Like you said, it doesn't matter what continent you're on, you're scoring. You go to China and you're going 20 and 10. You were in Turkey. And I just have to point this out. not only did you score well in the Turkish domestic league, but when you played in Euro Cup, your points per game went up, your efficiency went up from the field. You rose to the occasion. And so to even kind of pull that back, what is it that allows you to elevate your effort in a game that matters more? Because it's something we've seen from you at every level of your career.
Meaning as far as
you get better when the stakes are higher.
Yeah. When you love the game and you see somebody else, well, for me, when you see somebody else with a roster spot who's a W player, when you see them on that Euro Cup, you got to play with a chip on your shoulder. Like, you got a roster spot and I don't, and we're on a stage to where I can show why I need to be in the league with you or guarding you or playing against you. It doesn't matter, because whoever's watching them, they're on that other side, like, okay, well, Kalani Brown's over there, or this player's over there, and she did well too. It's all about exposure, and just playing with a chip on your shoulder, and taking your job seriously, because it is still a job overseas. It's not all fun and games, for sure. I've been in a couple of places. China was not easy. It was gym, home, just work. We just work, and you just get on your phone with your family. But that, like I said, that matured me and developed me and my confidence. When you see other players and playing against other players overseas who have that roster spot, it does kind of put a chip on your shoulder, because, yeah, I don't have a spot, but I'm going to show you why I need to have one,
Locked On Women's Basketball is brought to you by Ibotta. Groceries, school shopping, and getting a little something for yourself? You're already doing it. Why not get cash back for it with Ibotta? Watch your closet grow after purchasing all the season's latest trends, and you can do that while watching cash back grow with each purchase as well. The average Ibotta user earns over $120 a year in real cash back. That could cover the cost of an entire shopping trip. Or you could use that cash back to buy that flight you've been looking at, that game you're dying to go to, or that fancy dinner you're craving. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for trying it. Use the code LOCKED, LOCKED, when you register. So just go to the App Store, or the Google Play Store, and download the free Ibotta, IBOTTA app, and use code LOCKED. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store, and use the code LOCKED.
It's just kind of gotta bring.
And then, you talk about family and you talk about the voice your mom has been growing up. How much has she been able to enjoy just what's been going on here, this renaissance going on in Dallas with you?
Oh, she's enjoyed it. She's here. She's here now. She was here in the last game. She's gonna always be a coach. She'll be texting me at halftime or whatever. I just see my phone lighting up. I'm just like, gosh, I need to be focusing. But she still gets in coach mode. But she's really excited that I'm finally getting an actual shot and an actual chance. I think a lot of people are excited for me within the league and fans outside of the league. So I'm really appreciative for them, because every player I've come to in passing, whether it's AU, overseas, anything, like, I just have a tendency to, they're like, wow, you should be in the league. You should. So I just kind of keep those words with me. Words from greats like Sylvia Fowles and Cheryl Swoops. Like, I just keep that up and keep it with me. And that's kept my confidence and kept me like, okay, I do belong, despite I'm getting cut or I'm not in the league for the last 2 seasons. I still kept that up. Back-to-back knee surgeries, a lot of adversity. Like, I still kept that up. Those players still kept that up. People like Tasha Cloud and AU or Odyssey Sims, Cheyenne Parker. Like, I can name, the list goes on of how many players have impacted me, and they probably don't even know it. Just their positive words.
I mean, the extent to which it is a sisterhood is so obvious. And again, does AU reinforce that even further? To have a group, we've talked about it, the fact that you're able to play there, to play fast, made a lot of sense for the Trammell system, where you guys are leading the league in pace. But being able to be part of AU with so many people who understand the struggle that you're going through right now, right here, has AU filled part of that void of a development space for young WNBA players in your view?
Oh, for sure. AU gave me my confidence back. I wasn't confident as far as, offensively. Nobody has seen me play, even though I was overseas. I had money troubles in Turkey, and came home in December, and Sid Colson's like, come play with us. And so I was like, okay. It just gave you a reason to play against high level talent and W talent on a stage. And so I was like, yeah, let's do it. And I believe playing with Natasha Cloud and playing against Mercedes Russell, Izzy, different players, Dejanay Carrington, there was a lot of players in that first year. We were playing elite basketball at a high level. It was a great platform for us to perform on. And I feel like a lot of us got training camp contracts out of that. Myself with Vegas that year. It definitely gave me my confidence, like, okay, yeah, like I can play like this. And then their confidence in me, them believing in me, saying I need a roster spot. Natasha Cloud opened up her platform and said, why isn't Kalani Brown on the team? She didn't have to do that. Mm-hmm. It just stuck with me. And, when I see these girls on the other side, I'm always getting hugs, and because they know they're so proud of me. Yeah.
And far be it for me to ever disagree with Natasha Cloud, but she is actually right in this instance, of course. And it's a wonderful thing to see. I think it's better for the game of basketball when you have a roster spot. So I am personally delighted to see it. I guess what I'd like to leave things is just, as you think about the future, what do you want the next 5 years of the Kalani Brown career to look like?
Dominant. Just, I'm just happy. I'm happy to have finally got my chance and just really hopefully to stick on a roster and stick with a squad and make one of these teams my home in the near future, and just doing what I've been doing. I feel like I can't ask for nothing better than that.
Wow. I look forward to covering every bit of it. I don't doubt it's going to happen. And thank you for your time. To our listeners, thank you as always for making us a part of your listen every single day. We'll be back tomorrow, as we are 6 days a week here on Locked On Women's Basketball. Until then, I am Howard Megdal, wishing you all a wonderful day.
Ogunbowale for the win.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball.